Welcome back to Going Bush, where we find ourselves, Andrew, standing in a working forest here in Northern Tasmania, a logging coupe, in fact, known as Emu 4A.
Yes, indeed, and this is the story of Emu 4A, where harvesting, as you can see, has begun. But before one of these trees was felled, there was a planting process, Dykes, a planting process that lasted 15 years.
We visited Emu 4A, harvesting was at the halfway stage, the 60-hectare coupe producing a very high quality of timber.
But before any of this action began, the future of Emu 4A was in the hands of Forestry Tasmania's planners. And in this coupe's case, they started looking at it some 15 years ago. But due to changing market conditions, it was put on hold until recently.
Every coupe has a coupe-specific plan done for it. So we actually go out and identify what's on the ground. So it's not just an overall general, here's a coupe, go and harvest it. We actually have to identify what the special features are in each coupe.
It's the job of the forest planner to make sure that every consideration is given to the coupe and the surrounding areas. A great deal of time is put in at the planning stage, so nothing is missed.
I guess I'd like to think that we identify all the issues with a particular coupe so that we can address all issues, identify what species are going to be affected by that operation and try and implement prescriptions to minimise those impacts.
Once the plan is finalised, it's handed on to a forest supervisor who spends their time on the ground in the bush monitoring operations.
Yep, now we've had to extend the streamside reserves because the slopes are about 19 degrees. So I've extended them on all the streams by an extra 10 metres.
Before harvesting can begin on this coupe, I receive the plan, get an interpretation of it and convey it to the contractor.
The contractor in this case is Dwayne Beaumont, who's having to deal with changing markets but remains confident of the future for native forest harvesting and is still investing heavily in new equipment.
We go through it with Forestry Tasmania, like we've got a supervisor that's around twice a week checking on us, make sure everything's right. So we go through all the planning with them and then we sort of have a walk over the coupe and work out where the landing sites have. They've already been marked on a map that we go and have a look at and make sure it's, suitable for us.
Typically in an area like this where a coupe is harvested under a forest practices plan, about 30% of the coupe won't be harvested at all. A lot of the area is kept in streamside reserves or wildlife habitat clumps.
A lot of thought is also put into the area that is harvested. For example, the tracks to and from the landing, well, they're corded to prevent the soil becoming so compact that when this area is regenerated, the trees won't grow back.
High quality and high value saw logs, power poles and even bridge timbers are a bonus for the contractors on Emu 4A, but the bulk of the timber is destined for a peeler mill where it's processed, then exported and turned into plywood.
It's interesting on this job, Andrew, even though you've got all of the $1 million machinery and the processing, high-tech heads and stuff, there's still a very, very vital role for a man with a chainsaw.
Particularly at the moment, because in this area, there's no wood chip market at the moment. So what he's doing is chopping up the odd-shaped logs, the logs that would have used to have been sent to the chipper, and he's turning them into peeler logs,
maximising the value that comes off the coupe.
You're going to pick out the best, and that's what we try and do here. We try and make our logs look as best possible as we can, so then when we sell them on, that the customer's happy, and that's what it's all about.
Once harvesting is finished on Emu 4A, it will be regenerated, that process using fire, which is what's been happening in the area for thousands of years.
The wet forests that we have here mostly are even aged, have come back from a large wildfire in the past. So whether that was Europeans clearing land and the fire would go through the forest as well, or before that the Aboriginal people used fire. I guess lightning is also another cause of the big fires that are happening.
So Forestry Tasmania creates in-depth plans for each and every coupe it harvests, with some of those plans taking months or years to complete.
A forest practices plan aims to identify all environmental, operational and cultural issues and puts prescriptions in place to protect them to ensure the forest will regenerate.
As for Coupe, Emu 4A harvesting has been completed and regeneration planned for later this year so that it will be once again ready for harvest by future generations.
Yes, planning. It's an unseen but massive part of forestry.
Now, after the break, an online resource that is helping teachers around the country spread the message of sustainability.